I'd like for that thing maybe to be a little quicker at the end. You know, when the electricity ends, and then there's like that 3 seconds worth of pad after. It's like, you know, when the electricity ends, just go ahead and pop. You know, that's what I'm saying. Bart Keeler, hi.
Quicker transitions. Yeah, quicker transitions like Atlanta United last night.
Oh, switch your mic input. I'm hearing.
There we go. Okay.
There it is.
Got to put the headset on this morning.
Okay, so before we get into USMNT, I'm going to promote the fact that you're on the show. So I'm going to type a little bit while you filibuster and tell me what you thought about last night.
Yeah, I think last night was a really good performance from the team. I think that this is a good example of Pineda and the squad taking more of a priority of actually winning games as opposed to playing philosophically beautiful soccer. I think that it was really frustrating during the doldrums of the season where we were so focused on possession and so focused on proper build-up play that when we didn't have the players to really execute that well, that we weren't getting results. It's weird that now that we're playing a style of play that's a little more conducive to the players that we have, very much conducive to the best player we have on the field in Thiago Almada, that we're seeing better results and better performances. Now, I still maintain that we have not beaten really good teams, but we did beat an Orlando City team that is in the hunt for the playoff spot. I mean, a hunt for a home playoff spot at that.
Right.
And that's a positive. But this was another example of when you see Atlanta United be a little less focused on possession. And that doesn't mean we don't want the ball. That just means we're not concerned with having the ball all the time. We're more likely to find ourselves in better scoring opportunities. And that was really the best part of last night. You know, it's still fantastic to me that in what is objectively the worst season in Atlanta United history, Orlando didn't beat us.
Even worse than MLS is back.
I mean, I think this was we weren't. I mean, we'll see. But as I've said along, we're not making the playoffs. So not making the playoffs would qualify as the worst season in Atlanta United history. And Orlando didn't beat us. In fact, the only goal Orlando has scored on us is when they cheated and made the referee blow the whistle before Rocco was ready. So
that
it's insane that they you know, if I'm Orlando, you have some good players, you have a really good manager in theory. You don't have fans in the stands, but you have a lot of other good things going on. And you can't even score a legit goal against Atlanta United. Man, that really sucks. Good thing that you had to play a USL team in US Open Cup. Otherwise, I don't think you'd be having anything to talk about this season.
Nix has a question in the Twitch pitch, and I believe you've been to Exploria, so you would know that.
Multiple times.
Nix is asking, is Orlando's field kind of narrow? It felt tighter than usual.
I don't think I think it is. It looks smaller on TV because the stands are very close.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of space both behind the field or on the side of the field. So I don't think it's narrower. I think it just feels that way because of the stadium being so tight. It might be like a yard or two shorter, like narrower than normal, but it's still very much within FIFA regulations. Otherwise, you wouldn't have World Cup qualifying matches there.
Yeah.
And I don't think the field is by any stretch like a significantly smaller size. It's just looks that way on TV.
Yeah, I was going to say, you get your TV angles with the way that the cameras are positioned.
Yeah, the camera is also very different. That camera angle at Exploria is a little different than other places.
Yeah, it's offset and it's not flush with center line, and you have some slashes and some other spaces and things like that are laid out that way. All right, so the main reason that we brought you on this morning is to discuss a group of folks that were named yesterday after we were off the air. And I want to go position group by position group as we kind of analyze everything. But first and foremost, now that you've had almost 24 hours to think about it, what's your 30,000-foot view of the 26 that have been assembled as of right now as a group?
So I think the first thing to very much state is this is not the 26 going to Qatar. I've seen some people think that for some reason. this will influence that heavily, but this is not the 26 going to Qatar. Overall, this roster is pretty darn good. But I do think that this is Greg Berhalter giving some last chances to some guys who haven't necessarily been performing at the level he would want them to perform at before he has to make final decisions. So this camp is both about World Cup prep, but also some final chances for some guys. But this is the group that he has assembled to play his system. And that's kind of been his thing since he took over, but very much especially since we saw the 2021 Nations League, where he was very focused on getting his team, his group of players in to play the style of play he wants to play. And this is a very good example of that. And so I don't think there were some people complaining about certain players not being in or whatever. I think those were just Twitter takes being, exacerbated by the fact that people are probably just anxious for a World Cup and probably upset knowing that they were about to drop USMNT uniforms that are trash. So, I think they were a little anxious, but if you have really strong feelings about this roster, especially negatively, I have questions about your sanity.
So, for the record, Michael Head has dropped in that Explorer is 120 by 75 and Wembley is 115 by 70.
There you go. Yeah. So it's about the same size as that. It's actually longer, which I've always noticed it's a little bit longer. So maybe that's why you think it's narrow, is because it is long, but it's not as wide. Well, it's wider, but it's not proportionally not as wide. So.
It's the horizontal stripes make you look thinner, basically.
Right.
Okay. Just checking.
No, they don't, John. Oh, I'm so glad you married well.
you ain't kidding, brother. All right, let's go group by group. Actually, tell you what, before we go group by group, since you mentioned it, like I said, I admitted I'm a sucker for drip, and I will go to Forward Madison's website, and I will probably buy more kits than the average bear. So you're not a fan of the Loyal Blue. I'm not a fan of the white because I'm just not. But the Loyal Blue I would like more than the white.
So I am a stickler for this is my philosophy on especially international uniforms, is I think your World Cup uniforms need to be identifiably American. They need to be the specific colors that you would see on the US flag. They need to be very much directly a US soccer kit.
Right.
I'm not saying these depart from that necessarily, because I do think especially the white kits look like a US soccer kit. You've got the red and blue on the sleeve. I wish it were actually on the cuff, but the sleeve design. You've got white, blue, white. I actually kind of like the white, blue look. That's a cool, interesting take on some of those things. I prefer darker blue kits for the US, especially when it comes to the World Cup.
Right.
I think had this dropped in 2019, when we weren't going to a World Cup, I would not have been as disheartened by them. But because this is what the team will be wearing at the World Cup, it does not feel very inspiringly badass, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, because when you want to walk into the stadium that is ill-suited to have fans in Qatar, right. As they're sitting there wondering where they can't get their Pepsi and can't get their beer and are standing outside in 95-degree heat and matching humidity, you want to at least have something that's satisfying about your fan experience. And if you sit there and you're looking at the kit and you're going, man, I invested all this money to live in a yurt in the middle of the desert for a couple of weeks, it's not very fulfilling.
Yeah. So for the episode of Soccer for us, it's going to be dropping tomorrow, hopefully.
There you go.
I interviewed a guy who goes by US Keeper on Twitter, and he has done extensive research into the history of US men's national team kits going back from like 1916, right? Or 1913, even when it started.
Okay.
Also crest history, which is really cool. And a lot of stuff that comes up through his research is, there is some, we haven't had a great deal of kit identity, but there are some things that kind of have come through a lot, and we often look at that sash. And I do think that this was a missed opportunity to include that. We saw the 2018 kits kind of had a sash element that was the ending of the stripes kind of made a sash look. I think that was a route that U.S. Soccer probably should have taken that would have made these a lot more palatable to the fans. You think of the let's see, the 2010 World Cup had a sash-ish look. The 2006 World Cup wasn't a sash, but it was a stripe across the middle on the blue shirt and had a vertical, straight vertical sash on the white. I'm upset that we're not seeing a better consistent design when it comes to World Cup kits for the US. I think when you're talking about years, the years in between World Cups, go ham, have fun. That's fine. But when it comes to a World Cup, you want to have something very iconic. I do like the whites kind of continue a little bit the 2019 US Women's World Cup kits where they had the white shirt and blue and red on the sleeve. I think that's a nice continuation. The U.S. has always had white kits, especially for their primaries, so that part I do like. But the blues are just a little bit too much of a deviation from what I would want to see from U.S. Soccer.
What did you think of the '94 kit? Because I like the '94 kit. Of course, being the oldest dude here, it's like I like that '94 denim kind of a thing.
Yeah, I think I would have liked. I probably wouldn't have liked it super much in that time, but probably would have appreciated the just sheer Americanness of it, which is kind of what I thought they were going to do with these kits with the tie dye look. But it looks more like paint blotches and tie dye on the blue. And the rumored, I don't think they released it today, but the kind of leaked warm up kit is very similar, where it's white with blue and almost pink but red. Paint blotches over it. And I think tie-dye could have been an interesting approach to a kit. Definitely an American type of thing that we always associate with. Yeah, very, very much Woodstock, but still something very American. But, I'm wearing this kit today because this is my favorite all-time U.S. kit. I love the red and blue stripes. Obviously, you got the stars on the sleeves.
There you go.
And I think that this, to me, is a better look for U.S. Soccer going forward, is the red and blue stripes. I wasn't sure how I would like the ones that we just had, the dazzle camo thing. I still maintain that it looks really good on people who are athletes and not good on people who aren't athletes. But ultimately, the athletes are the ones wearing it, and we want to see them look cool. So I'm not a fan of these kits. I'm very disappointed that they're so deviated from what I would say an iconic U.S. look for a World Cup, but I'm sure that some people like them, and that's what matters. But the reaction on Twitter has not been very good.
Yep. Bam is joining us from Australia, and he said the '93 kit for the Socceroos is a thing of beauty. And so I'm looking it up and trying to figure out if I can find a picture of it. And it's like, well, of course, the image may contain. I don't care. It's like, I don't care what the image may contain. Ooh, okay. Yeah, I do. I like that. It's very Norwich. It's very Norwichy. I'll have to go with that. I like that, man. Very nice. Yeah, it's like I'm sitting here feverishly looking for '93 Australia kit. And so, yeah, I thought that was kind of cool. All right, so let's get into positions and position groups and things like that. And yes, and I think that it was important off the top to let everybody know, and I think that this kind of got lost in the sauce, that this is not the be-all, end-all roster like Garrett Southgate announced this morning, and we can get into that too. But you look at this group and you start in net, and you look at it and you're going Horvath, Sean Johnson, Matt Turner, and I think probably the only other individual that could have been a part of this discussion would be Gaga Slonina. So of these three, what do you think?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I think these are the three that make the most sense if Zach Steffen isn't healthy, which he's not. He's hurt. Horvath and Johnson have been a part of the group more often. Johnson has been a part throughout World Cup qualifying, and I do think that has more to do with the fact that bringing in the third goalkeeper from England versus bringing in the third goalkeeper from MLS wasn't exactly the most sensible thing to do. But
yes,
I think these three make a lot of sense. I think right now you're looking at Turner as your number one goalkeeper for the U.S. And I like the fact that you're going to get Horvath versus Johnson in camp to fight for that number 3 spot, because I do think Steffen will still be number 2. I don't think Gaga, it's not his time yet, and that's okay. It's okay that an 18-year-old goalkeeper who has just a handful of, not even a handful, 2 years of professional experience, who still has a lot of developing, and who still has not become the complete and full version of himself, is not going to be included in either this camp or the World Cup. That is okay. It's fine. He's 18.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like I can.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. It's okay. He will have plenty of time after this World Cup to become the next great U.S. men's national team goalkeeper. But you're looking at a guy in Ethan Horvath who has been playing in Europe for a very long time. At one point was playing in European competition, continental competition, now playing and starting for a championship team, doing very well. You're looking at another guy in Sean Johnson, who one is from Georgia, so that means more than Gaga Slonina, sorry.
Look what high school represent, brother.
Yeah. And then, but also is a reigning MLS Cup winning goalkeeper and now a Campeones Cup winning goalkeeper, and has been a very solid, good to great goalkeeper in MLS for 10 years. And to me, that it just weighs more than a guy who is 18 and playing pretty well right now, but is still not a fully developed goalkeeper, which Sean Johnson is. And to me, that matters. Jason, I know Stefan is Greg's favorite. I get it. I get it. I think at this point you can't. If Greg starts Zach Steffen in the World Cup, he has no statistical evidence or no current form to base that off of, and it will not go well. Matt Turner is the best goalkeeper playing right now for the U.S. He is the best option for the U.S. to win games, and I will stand by that. He's your best shot stopper, and that's what matters ultimately as a goalkeeper.
All right, so let's move forward one line here with 9 defenders in, and we'll take them alphabetically. And this is this way. I say alphabetically that way. I'm not sitting here and ranking them 1 through 9. Reggie Cannon, CCV, Serginho Dest, Aaron Long, Chris Richards, Joe Scally, Sam Vines, DeAndre Yedlin, Walker Zimmerman, not in the group currently, Tim Ream, John Brooks, Shaq Moore. And Greg Berhalter admitted that Shaq Moore was a difficult decision, like his 1v1 defending, playing well for Nashville, opted for other players, keeping an eye on Miazga, McKenzie, James Sands, and EPB. What do you think about this group?
So this group, I think, is pretty good. There's one or two, I don't want to say issues, but like there's one or two players that I don't think should be going to Qatar. The first one is Sam Vines. I like Sam Vines a lot. I think he's done a really good job this season in Belgium with Royal Antwerp. Yeah. But he's only in this camp because Jedi Robinson is hurt. I'm really hoping Joe Scally has a good camp because he has a potential to be on that plane to Qatar because of his ability to be a very, very good right back, but also swing to that left side and be a very solid left back as well. That would be the ideal for me is that Joe Scally cements himself as a guy that Berhalter can trust to bring to Qatar, because in my opinion, you can't have Serginho Dest be your backup left back in Qatar. That's not a recipe for success. You do need to have an actual backup left back. And with a 26-person roster, there's no reason to not bring a true left back as your backup. But that said, James Sands, I keep going to James Sands. We'll talk about him in a second.
Yeah.
That said, Sam Vines could very well have a really good camp and press Berhalter and say, I'm your backup left back. He's played pretty darn well in Belgium this year and has been there for a full season now. So he kind of looks like he's got his feet under him. I'm still not a fan of Aaron Long on this national team. I know that Greg Berhalter has a love affair with Aaron Long, and I know that Aaron Long was really, really good until he got hurt.
Right.
And the reality is he has not been at that level since he got hurt. And this is the unfortunate side of injuries when it comes to athletes, since they can alter your career, they can alter the trajectory of your career. And Aaron Long was a very good, most likely starting center back for the United States before he got injured. And now he has not recovered to the speed of play that he needs to. And I'm not saying he himself is not fast, but there's a difference between being fast and being able to play fast. Right. And I don't think he's at that point yet. He's had some blunders in MLS this season. Granted, he's still a very good set piece attacking player. We also haven't proven as a team to be able to deliver a good set piece yet. So that's not something that matters at this point in time. But I do think that I would have preferred a guy like Eric Palmer Brown to be in this camp because I think he provides a more well-rounded player at center back. He can do all the things that Aaron Long does defensively. He's not as experienced as Long, but he's still a very good player. He's been playing in the French league for a couple of years now, played in Austria before that. He's had a lot of good experience in Europe playing at a very high level. And I think he offers more than what Aaron Long can. But I also understand that Aaron Long is seen by Greg as some like most important, like almost, demigod type figure in
He's
the
a
locker room.
touchstone for the roster in the locker room.
And Greg cares about that a lot of times more than he does actual talent. And that doesn't, I mean, that I'm not saying that Long is terrible. I'm just saying that a lot of times Greg does prefer who he trusts versus who's better, going back to that Stefan versus Turner debate.
Yes, and we've seen that.
But I don't think there's any other center backs that are absolutely missing. James Sands has not been great for Rangers. We'll talk about another Rangers player who has been good in a little bit.
There you go.
But Sands has not been fantastic for Rangers. And there's really no other center back that like jumps out that should be there. I understand the Shaq Moore thing. I personally think that you're looking at DeAndre Yedlin is for sure going to Qatar. He's the only person who would have World Cup experience because, to his credit, he's consistent about it. But Greg Berhalter just doesn't see John Brooks as a player in his system, or Tim Ream for that matter.
Yeah.
And so that means Yedlin would be the only player who would have World Cup experience, and that is valuable. That is valuable. So you're looking at like Scally or Cannon as that backup right back position, maybe. Cannon's been a weird player to figure out since he went over to Europe. Hasn't quite worked out the way that we wanted it to for him. And maybe this is the final chance to look at it. I don't think Shaq Moore has been I don't think it's a crime that Shaq Moore isn't here. Let's just put it that way.
Bart Keeler hanging out with us for another 10 minutes to wrap up the Thursday Power Hour at Bartimus Prime 19, Soccer for US Pod. And it's going to be cool when you have the new Soccer for US Pod out mañana, as the kids say.
Yes.
Let's look into the midfield. 6 of them have been named. Kellen Acosta, Tyler Adams, Luca de la Torre, Weston McKennie, Yunus Musa, Malik Tillman. The 2 that were outside looking in, Johnny and Eric Williamson, were mentioned yesterday by Greg Berhalter. What do you think about this 6-pack?
Yeah, so I think these 6 guys pretty much are locked for Qatar. I think the iffy one is Malik Tillman, but I think the first 5 are absolutely going, right? They've been vital throughout qualification. They've been vital throughout just about ever since Greg took over. I think Luca de la Torre has finally earned himself a spot in this group. He's by far the best backup option to any of those kind of attacking, if you will, central midfield positions. And I think Malik Tillman right now stands the best chance to also book a ticket to Qatar. And he's been playing really well in Scotland. Take that with a grain of salt, but he's looked okay in some of the European competitions. The last couple matches haven't been great, but I don't know if you know this, John, but Rangers is not as good as a lot of the European competitions they're playing in Champions League.
What?
CCV has also had this problem with Celtic, where maybe they're just not great teams. Not as good of teams compared to some of the teams they're playing in Champions League. I know this shocks everyone that Rangers is not on the level of Ajax, but it's just true. So it's hard for me to be like super harsh on Malik Tillman for not being as involved when his team is just being overrun by better players. But I think Greg likes them. I think Greg likes a little bit of his versatility, being able to play both centrally in the midfield, but as an option out wide if needed. He definitely does provide a lot more of athleticism on set pieces, but he's so silky smooth on the ball. And you can see that even at a young player, he's seeing the game in a way that I think Berhalter likes, and that obviously Bayern and Rangers like. So, you're playing under a guy in Giovanni von Bronckhorst, which is helping him, I think, as well, play at a slightly higher level. I think he has a really good chance to make it. I think unfortunately for Williamson, it's just been a little too little, too late.
Yeah.
Maybe not too little, but it's just been a little too late for his good performances. The unfortunate injury he had last year did kind of throw that off. I don't think there's anyone else personally that has a really good shout. I know we talked about Johnny, and I think Johnny has a good shout going forward. We're going to need to find a true backup defensive midfielder. Johnny can do that. But I think right now it's Tyler Adams and Kellen Acosta has earned a spot there. And Johnny, truthfully, just hasn't looked great when he's put on a U.S. shirt. He had a really bad Olympic qualifying campaign and hasn't looked super awesome outside of that either.
8 forwards, a lot of familiar names: Brendan Aronson, Paul Arriola, Jesus Ferreira, Jordan Morris, Ricardo Pepi, Christian Pulisic, Gio Reyna, Josh Sargent. No Jordan Pefok, no Brandon Vasquez. And I know that and Tim Weah is also out with an ankle injury. And I know that a lot of folks were, looking and pointing at Brandon Vasquez and going, "Ooh, look, Brandon Vasquez, Brandon Vasquez, Brandon Vasquez." But what do you think about this group up top?
So I think that this group is likely to be what we see in Qatar minus one thing. I think Tim Weah is absolutely going if he's healthy. So I think the Morris Areola battle in this camp is going to determine who goes to Qatar, because I'm sorry, neither of them can replace Gio Reyna on the roster if Gio Reyna's healthy. Gio is, I think, the most talented, gifted on the ball player we have, and that's even including Christian Pulisic. So I think that those two are fighting for that last spot as an attacking player. I understand Brandon Vasquez, like the call for him. I think that he has had a really good season in MLS, and he does a lot of good things that Greg Berhalter would want. But John, we've watched him in Atlanta. We watched him at Atlanta United too. Yeah. This is the first time he's ever looked like this.
Correct.
And that's not a bad thing, right? That's not a bad thing. But
you can't roll the dice on a hot hand when you're this close to trying to figure out who is heading to a World Cup. Yes,
absolutely.
Yes, it's been great. Love to see it. Hope it continues, but you can't risk a spot of experience in international competition on a dude who's got the hot hand. I get it.
And the thing is that everyone who's been called into this camp had been called in already.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone. So when you look at Pepi and Sargent, I think this is what's happening. As Ferreira's going to Qatar, Pepi and Sargent are getting one last look. And Greg kind of hinted at this when he talked about Pefok not being included. He said, we know what Pefok can do. Little bit of, I don't love that he's not in this camp, but I understand he kind of had a knock that he recovered from. He did play over the weekend, but it's not the worst thing that Pefok isn't here to allow Pepi and Sargent, because Greg was only going to bring three forwards. He was only ever going to bring 26 into this camp. Allow Pepi and Sargent to get their final tryouts, if you will.
Right.
Sargent especially needed to be in because he has actually had a really good start to the season for Norwich. Funny how playing at a competition level consistent with your development level makes you look like a decent player. We're seeing a little bit of that with Pepi now that he's not at Augsburg, going to Groningen, and he's already registered an assist, even though he's only appeared like twice. So that is a positive. But I think they're battling for the number 2 striker spot. And I really, truly believe that Pefok, unless Pepi and Sargent both just wow Berhalter, I think Pefok is going as that third striker. And that's where, to me, the battle was between Vasquez and Pefok, because they are both the hot hand goal scorer, which, by the way, so is Ferreira. But Pepi and Vasquez were that hot-handed goal scorer. And to be quite honest, Pefok has just done it more frequently for longer.
Right.
He had really good seasons in the Swiss League, which is why he ended up getting that call up last year. And he's had a really good start to the Bundesliga, playing for the best team right now in Bundesliga. So I understand that we all wanted Brandon Vasquez as the guy who formerly played for Atlanta United, but it's also revisionist history, because I've seen a lot of Atlanta United fans say, well, why don't we keep Vasquez? Because he wasn't good. Sorry, he just wasn't at this level. He had no indication he would be at this level when he was at Atlanta United. So we let him go to FC Cincinnati because it wasn't that big of a deal then. And he's had a really good season. If he continues to have a good season, you got a Gold Cup next summer, right? And the other thing is Pepi, Sargent, Ferreira, and Vasquez, and even Pefok to an extent, but all 4 of those guys are under the age of like 23.
Yeah.
Right? They've got long careers ahead of them. 2026 is 4 years away. All 4 of those guys are still going to be battling for the starting striker spot for the U.S. men's national team 4 years from now. And they're going to have more people behind them as guys like Florian Balogun maybe come into the mix, or just other young attackers come into the mix. So it's okay that Vasquez isn't here. Consistency is not always about one season or in one season. You do also have to show consistency across seasons. And Vasquez just quite frankly hasn't been that player until this season. And he's also cooled off significantly in the past since it turned to September. You know.
And I would also wonder how a Brandon Vasquez would integrate into a Greg Berhalter system versus what he is in right now with FC Cincinnati, when you've got guys like Brenner and Lucho Acosta there helping you out in addition to everything else.
Yeah, it's definitely not the same, but I think he would. I think Vasquez would work well in the Berhalter system, but Berhalter wasn't going to bring him in to this one camp to get him introduced to the system. That wasn't going to happen. And I think that's the other thing is, again, as I said at the top, this is Berhalter's group of guys to play his system. Vasquez hasn't entered that group yet, and so it's going to be very unlikely that he gets called in to this camp for that reason.
All right, so you're coming back tomorrow at 10, right?
Yes.
And we're going to talk about Atlanta United. Anything else on your mind? We talk about all the other national teams because it looks like Gareth Southgate has announced his bunch. Ivan Toney was named.
Why not?
And the thing is that if you go to the England football website, when they announced the squad of 28, there's one dude who doesn't have a photo. They didn't even bother photoshopping. They didn't even bother photoshopping the kid on him, and just like it's like, take his headshot from Brentford and swap out the Brentford jersey for a national team jersey. They didn't even do that. It's like he's like the unknown striker on the England football website. So
yeah, you got to unlock him. He's the hidden striker. You got to unlock in the game.
No doubt. Yeah. So we'll talk about that tomorrow. One more plug for the upcoming pod, please.
Yeah. So we'll drop. I've got a guy named Keeler who is a U.S. soccer historian on his own time. Got an interview with him that'll be dropping, and then I have my roster reactions with my friend Caleb from USMNT Corner. And that'll come tomorrow, maybe tonight. Depends on how quickly I can edit these things. But I actually have to edit these. These aren't live. These aren't like just live recordings that we put up there. So hopefully tonight, but probably tomorrow morning, you'll be able to see it in your Soccer Down Here feed.
What he said. So at Bartimus Prime 19, please follow him on the Twitters if you do not already. So that way you can get and Soccer for US on the Twitters as well. So, Bart, we will catch up with you tomorrow. We'll talk about other international stuff. And you realize, of course, that during the international window, the welcome mat will be out for you.
Love it.
Well, I mean, it's like you're my guy, and so it's like, previews and reviews, and you're going to be very, very busy with us during the international window. So
it's totally fine, John. I'm here to help you.
As always, and we'll talk about horizontal and vertical stripes and hoops and things like
horizontal stripes. I love them. They look good on US kit. That's all I have to say. Y'all take care.